Evening to Oropouche West MP and UNC Shadow Finance Minister Dave Tancoo. Pleasant good evening to you, Mr. Tancoo.
Good afternoon, Mikee, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Yeah, I know I can hear it in your voice. It's been a hectic day for you. Before we dive into as far as the HSF, tell us how are you coping in your constituency with this inclement weather?
My friend, we have had substantial flooding in vast majority of Oropouche West. It is very unfortunate because we predicted that had the government done what is required to do, we would not have had this problem. We raised these issues in the parliament and by letter and by protest that the government should be clearing water courses, etc. Anytime we have substantial amount of rain like we did, we would get a substantial buildup of water. But the flooding that has taken place, where we have 3 and 4 feet of water inside people's homes, it didn't need to be like this. It didn't need to be this bad. And what is worse is we had ministry officials telling us that they had done substantial work. We went on these river courses and we realized that all they did was remove the grass. All they did was shrubbery. They didn't build river banks. They didn't dredge rivers. They didn't clean tributaries. They didn't clear upriver. All they did is some cosmetic work, and the result is what we saw today. In fact, I raised in Parliament in April the risk of a bank breach where Heritage had done some work. The Minister of Energy indicated that substantial work was done, etc. The bank was breached exactly where we predicted it would. So for me today, I am very angry at the government. I'm very angry at the Ministry of Works and Transport. I'm very angry at the Ministry of Energy because what they have done is put citizens of Oropouche West in danger of losing their lives, livelihood, their assets for no reason except geographic discrimination.
No, we have the local government minister, Mr. Alwari, who has been in that position not for a long period of time, but he has been assuring us, the public, general public, prior to this rainy season, that things were on point, that there has been a cleanup operation, clearing of the water courses, what have you. And every time it seems that we keep hearing the same thing. But what's interesting, it always seems as though in certain areas there's a sense of neglect. And one has to ask the question, is there some sort of demographical discrimination or geographical discrimination? And most of these assistance that has to be rendered isn't there forthcoming?
Well, let me give you a classic example. This afternoon, at around 3 o'clock, we had individuals who had to go to the 14-gate floodgate area to manually open the floodgates because there was an electrical problem that the Ministry of Works and Transport failed to pay attention to. That meant that water was backing up for hours in woodland and surrounding areas because those floodgates could not be opened. Civic-minded citizens had to do the job that the Ministry of Works and Transport failed to do. They had to leave their homes in flood and flee to the floodgate to manually open a system that was designed and allegedly repaired to function electrically with the press of a button. It failed. And that is the reason for that failure is because of the neglect of the Ministry of Works and Transport to ensure that the facility was functioning effectively. And this is what it causes. When the floodgates are locked, it means that water could not simply go down the river. I was told by one of the persons who helped manually open the floodgates that water dropped by more than 1 foot after 1 hour of the floodgates being open. What that meant is that the floods in woodland could have been avoided substantially had those floodgates been functioning. Again, another failure of the Ministry of Works and Transport. Yeah. With regard to the Minister of Local Government, I'm sorry, I think that gentleman is just totally clueless or does not understand that when he's speaking, he should not be speaking about San Fernando, the river courses and so on that he would have said in his constituency. He should come down to Oropouche West and see the facts, what the truths are. And he will find out, quite frankly, that what exists is not what he's been led to believe or what he's convinced himself is true. There has been very little work done. And now they have starved the regional corporations of funding. We have raised these issues publicly before. They've stopped the regional corporation of funding so that the regional corporation itself didn't have fuel earlier this year to exercise its equipment to remove and clear drains and water courses.
No,
This is the reputation and the negligence of the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Ministry of Local Government, and the Ministry of Finance in providing the finances required by local government corporations.
I know you may not be able to engage everyone who may be stranded, or perhaps there's a hotline, a phone number. You want to say something to them this evening, those folks who are still waiting for assistance?
At this point, I think people can directly message me, 716-8757. This is my personal number. I prefer people message rather than call, but we have been able to rescue maybe 30 or 40 individuals from stranded homes, people in vehicles, and at least 10 children who had exams to do that we had to go in and take them out so that they could write their exams and go back home into the flooded areas, unfortunately.
Right. Now, you've also mentioned the PNM government has failed to account for the drastic 20% drop in the HSF in just 1 year. You says that it was great concern that the UNC opposition notes the $6.3 billion loss recorded by the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, the first in the fund's 16-year existence, but with even greater concern over the finance minister's nonchalant and dismissive response. I mean, when you put this in perspective, what you're saying here is that this cannot be business as usual, because there are many questions that need to be answered. For example, once you're making this investment, there has to be someone keeping abreast of market trends. This is not something that you simply say, listen, and you close your eyes. And when it comes to trends, there are three kinds of trends here, Mr. Tancoo: short, intermediate, and long term. Whose job is it to monitor the trends of this fund and to know exactly what needs to be done if we need to pull in some of the financial managers? At one point, we were hearing about global banks. So we know there was a trend in the global economy as far as some banks who were under pressure. Were we affected by that directly or indirectly? Why is so much of this kept in the dark when it's our money that's up there?
And those are very valid questions, and questions I would like to get answers to as well. When you listen to the minister, he had the opportunity to present today to explain what really happened. You got the Prime Minister speaking about misrepresentation and timing, and allegedly misleading article. You got the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance today attacking the media for an article which was factual. There was nothing in the article that was wrong. The article highlighted an issue, which was that there was a $6.26 billion loss in the HSF. The article questioned why that occurred. Now, this is 20% of the value of the HSF. This is a substantial savings. If you had your personal savings, Mikey, and in your personal savings, you wake up one morning and suddenly you lost 1/5 of your savings for no reason, wouldn't you be concerned?
Of course.
All that the newspaper article raised was concern. Instead of the minister berating the journalist and the newspaper, what he should have been doing is explaining why it took an expose by the media before he could come to the public and try to explain the situation. And instead of explaining what happened, the minister was busy reciting figures that the fund had rebounded, etc., etc., etc. We have long expressed concern about the abuse of the HSF. The minister claimed that the government had accessed HSF because of the conditions that they found themselves in for budget support as a result of COVID-19 and the war in the Ukraine, etc. But we have also raised issues that there were billions of dollars in loans and grants given by this government, billions of dollars in loans and grants given to this government for COVID. And up to today, the government cannot explain why it is then it needed to access the HSF, given that they had all of this money that was coming in via grants and funds, grants and loans to the government. So what we found ourselves in is we withdraw from the public's savings, We withdrawn substantially from that, and we included now debt loans that we would have taken, that we now have to still go back to the population to tax to repay. So we took from the population savings, and we are still borrowing money. To date, up to today, they are still borrowing money to engage in government expenditure. So taxpayers are now being told that after all of this, including citizens in my constituency who have now to face flooding and property tax, we are now being told that we have to fund this government's failure to account and vast splurging of the public purse. That is unacceptable. Instead of the minister coming and providing explanations in a calm, polite way, they are attacking people who are raising the issues, demanding explanations, which is the public's right. I salute the newspapers for not leaving it to chance and for calling and holding the ministry, the minister, and the government to account. That the opposition has also been doing. And what I think the media is finding out now is that when you ask a minister a question, when you ask them to account, their response is abuse. There's nothing to hide. Why are they hiding?
And that's the question, Mr. Tancoo, added to the fact that this has been in the possession of the finance minister for more than 5 months. Now, that's a very scary situation. I mean, we saw something similar play out in other places like Barbados and so forth when the financial information was not forthcoming. And so the people themselves were in the dark. How is my country being governed? Is there direct investment, foreign direct investment? Is there anything that is generating revenue that perhaps we need to know about? Again, these markets have trends. There's always going to be global trends. Whose job is it to monitor? And if it is being monitored, is it being monitored on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis? And when you see these trends or whatever red flags, whose job is it to take another direction? And why is that not being done?
Mikey, my concern with all of this is that the minister failed. Now, he said he laid it in Parliament in February, which is true. And there's nothing wrong with that. But every time the HSF had generated substantial profit, the minister was the first one out the box to make public a statement and to salute his expertise and his management capability that the HSF has made a profit. Why is it when there was this loss that the minister stayed silent? The reason is because the minister's tendency is not to provide information to the public. The only reason he's bristling right now and angry that the information came out is because they are facing an election
right,
within a couple of months. And they are not willing, even in the face of that election, to provide information to the public. This loss of 6.26 billion, that, Mikey, if you bear that in mind with the national budget being about $54 billion, that's a substantial loss. 20% of your personal savings being disappeared, vanished, is an issue of concern. And the minister said that he was very concerned, but he really raised it to the fund managers. They said just stay the course, etc. That's fine for him. That's not fine for us, because this is our money, and we have seen how this minister manages, and it's absolutely hopelessly woeful.
Yeah, but
just look at how the state of the economy at present. Just look at the amount of borrowings we've had. Just look at the fact that even after increasing the budget, there are still billions of dollars owed in VAT refunds to businesses and in debt to suppliers to this government.
Okay, so then basically, Mr. Tancoo, this tells us more than what's being disclosed here. I mean, basically, it shows that this is total incompetence as far as how it is that our economy is being managed, because under the UNC-led government, and within the law, deposits to this fund, this Heritage and Stabilization Fund, there has to be some sort of deposit whenever surplus revenues from petroleum were generated. Is it that we are not generating anything in order to put into this HSF?
Well, there's a way of calculating. And what we have realized that the minister will budget based on an oil price of a certain figure, so that he would not necessarily have to put money into the account if they receive an energy price higher, an oil price higher, energy price, higher than what is budgeted. What the minister is doing is clever. Well, I shouldn't say cleverly, but what the minister is doing is budgeting his oil price so that he would not have to put money into the HSF. This minister, his function, his raison d'etre, his tendency is not to save, it is to spend and borrow and spend. You know, I heard the Prime Minister speak even at this very same press conference talking about further loans and grants being provided to this country by the U.S. and others. Mikey, we have gone from a country where we were generating surplus, where we were feeding ourselves, where we were providing sufficient funding. We have gone from a country that used to lend to CARICOM to a country that is now celebrating when we get a loan. How sad is it that this PNM has taken our country, to a point where we are seeking loans internationally to fund to fund the PNM's primary project and expenditure, with nothing being put, and this is where the problem is, with nothing being put in place to ensure that we could repay those loans.
And you're right about that. I mean, this is all about management, because when you have the former central bank governor, Mr. Ewart Williams, saying that the Heritage and Stabilization Fund has confronted a series of challenges that have tested its resilience and threatened its sustainability. Now that didn't happen overnight. What are these challenges? And were we not up to deal with these challenges, not understanding the market and how the market was playing out? I mean, to just simply come and say that that's just it, while other funds recorded a great amount of profit and was doing well.
Well, the Minister of Finance likes to refer to international agencies when it suits his purpose. He likes to speak about international prices. He likes to speak about price of energy, etc., abroad, and price of electricity, etc., abroad, failing to realize that we can compare ourselves. And what he does is he compares himself, he compares Trinidad and Tobago to the best operating country when it suits him, and then to the worst operating country when it suits him. All of that is to disguise from the fact that we have just suffered a substantial loss in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. The ministers claim that, it is the same value as it was when they took office. That's yet, with due respect. That's mama guy. If after 8 years you are the same place you were when you took office, you should not be in office. He has borrowed money, he has taken money out of that fund. They have used that as their personal bank account to fund their same COVID expenditure. I am saying that he has yet to provide a list to the Parliament of where that money has been spent. And the reason they would not do that is because they cannot justify the expenditures that they have taken. This is the same Minister of Finance who closed his eyes and ignored a $400 million loss at NGC over the period of 2 years, because NGC invested in 2 projects which they should not have. They wrote that off. And I am sure that there are other $100 million that have been written off with their eyes closed by the government, and the persons who are responsible. In that case with NGC, it was Mark Roquan. It was Mark Roquan and the board of directors that misinvested literally $400 million with the citizens' money, and nobody has been held to account. Mark Roquan still collects his excessive salary, as far as I'm concerned, because if you are receiving money and you're losing money consistently, you are hopelessly bad manager and you should be fired. If you have a prime minister and you have a minister of finance doing the same thing, hopelessly running a business or hopelessly running the economy, and you are losing and the economy is shrinking, you should be fired. But in typical manner, where the prime minister has held on to the most incompetent minister of national security, he will continue to hold on to this most incompetent minister of finance, to the loss, to the detriment of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, who now have to pay taxes to fund this government's profligacy.
And that's where I want to draw the point before we close up, because we have some viewers on who may not be economically inclined to understand everything, but they do understand the fundamentals of it. And of course, they're living it on a daily basis, trying to make ends meet, trying to keep a roof over their head, food on the table. They understand that over 5,000 retail outlets could not reopen their doors after the pandemic. Now they're hearing about the money and they're hearing about the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Let me ask you something, Mr. Tancoo, with all due respect and with very bold and brutal honesty. Where do we stand as far as our economy today?
Our economy has shrunk by about 20% over the last 8 years under the management of Common and under the guidance of Christopher Rowley. There will be incremental. The minister loves to jump up and say the economy grew from last year to this year by X% or 1% or 2%. But overall, we have had a contraction of the economy. The minister loves to blame COVID, etc., but the economy was contracting even before COVID. What we have now is a failure that is any government ministry could see it, any business investor could see it, that what we have now is a fall in investor confidence, which means that people are not willing to invest in Trinidad and Tobago. Not just local citizens, but international investors are not willing to invest in Trinidad and Tobago because they do not believe that they could generate sufficient revenues to cover their investment. What that means too is that other countries, Guyana and Barbados and other countries, are doing well. Their economies are growing while ours is contracting. When an economy contracts, it means that things are becoming more difficult, employment is becoming harder to get, prices are going to continue to go up, production is going to fall. We are seeing some severe results as a result of this government mismanagement. And we really need to face those facts and try to find ways, creative ways of transforming this economy. We are not seeing that the government continues to depend solely on oil and gas, even while they mismanage that sector.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much. Again, for those folks affected in the Oropouche West constituency, your member of parliament, you can message him. Don't call, message 716-8757. That number again, 716-8757. I know they're having challenges out there in this inclement weather, but I want to thank you, MP, and all the councillors, those assisting you, and volunteers for reaching out for those who definitely need some assistance. Any closing comments? Go right ahead.
Mikee K, I am begging citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to pay attention to what this government is doing to our country. Because if we don't stand up now, if we don't speak out now, if we don't stop voting and start voting, things will not get better. We've seen it over the last 8 years. I implore Trinidad and Tobago to use this local government election to send a strong, clear message to this government that what is happening now is not acceptable. Enough is enough. It is time to force this government to come to terms with the reality that citizens are not happy. We are in serious distress, we are in serious crisis, and we need to do something about it. Stand up, TNT.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tancoo. Thank you so much for taking time out with us. All the best of luck to you and your team. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mikey.
Thank you so much.